Hey guys, got a ZVP for you today. ZVT, I really want to start casting, but I don't want to show it until I've got something polished. Still, the timings are feeling kind of strange. Sometimes I'll skip Infester versus Bio, and then they'll roll me because I didn't have 2 or 3 Infestors, which would have made a huge difference. Sometimes versus Mech, I'll just outright skip Swarm Hosts entirely because I'm thinking, well, I'll just go ahead and go for Roach Hydra drops, and it turns out it's way better to go for Swarm Host Viper. So I'm still really figuring out the matchup. So I'm keeping it to ZVP for now because that's where I feel like I can really show consistent Swarm Host play that people are going to want to see. So this game has me in the upper right as the Zerg player Rekatan, and then in the lower right we have LucyPrime. I actually, at the time of this game, I had never heard of Lucy before, but actually some people on the stream looked it up afterwards on Team Liquid, and apparently he's the newest member of the Korean pro team Prime. He's been, from what I hear, kind of trying to get into Code A and has gotten to the finals, but hasn't been able to break in. So he's a pretty solid player. He had a really good win rate at the time, but he's struggling to get into Code A currently. So definitely kind of on his way up. But he's playing for the Prime team, so that's got to say something. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cruise through just the first couple minutes here, since we've all seen this before. We've only got, what is it, about a week and a half here before Heart of Swarm ends. 2 weeks, I guess. Almost on the dot. And then no more beta. I'm going to be kind of bummed out for about 2 weeks while we wait for release. But it'll be so cool. I'll never get time to actually play the campaign, though, unfortunately, because it's going to be Grandmaster Week, and then immediately afterwards Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate comes out, and then I'll probably be disappearing for a bit while I play that a bunch with some people. And then I maybe get to play campaign like a month after it came out. We'll see. Alright, so we're almost to the point we can slow this down a bit. Let's go ahead and get it up to maybe about 6 minutes. Okay, that'll do. Alright, so on my end we're seeing the I'm bumping up my gas timing a little bit earlier. I'm trying to make sure I keep my layer starting before 6 minutes. So we see it there, it started at about 5:58, so that's pretty solid. I'm finding that's kind of the magical number if you want to be able to hold certain gateway aggression and have room to counterattack afterwards. That's the catch, is you'll, you know, with a layer that finishes at 8 or 9 minutes, you'll probably hold. It's just you'll need to pull drones, you'll need to make a ton of spines, you might even need to make hydras rather than swarm hosts, and all of that then leads to them going into a healthy mid-game because they're going to take a quick third. So I'm finding that it's better just to go ahead and not quite spend the minerals, or not quite spend the larvae as quickly on drones as you otherwise would have because of that earlier gas, but be ready if they go for any kind of early aggression, because you'll have swarm hosts out well in advance. So from LucyPrime thus far, we're just seeing some chrono boosts going down on the +1. As far as what I see, I have yet to go ahead and scout. What I'm doing here is actually, I forgot it this game. It's not good. These days, what I'm doing, I should say, is now that Pneumatized Carapace is hatch tech, I grab it when my layer's about halfway. I get to 100 gas again, I grab it, and the timing works out really well. It works out to where basically the moment my Overseer finishes, my Pneumatized Carapace also finishes. And it's a subtle difference in timings, but what it means is that Overseer gets out almost every time, as opposed to dying almost every time. So that's really cool. You know, it's eking out 100 minerals and 50 gas and 8 more supplies, so that's something, you know. So there we go, Pneumatized Carapace just finishing up, a little later than I'd like, but at least it's done. At this point I'm spotting all these gateways, and I know pretty much what's coming here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then that makes 8. So Lucy's going super all in here right now. And we notice on his scouting, it's been a while since he's taken a look at my third. We can be pretty certain he's doing this blind, assuming I took a quick third. He's metagaming. But in fact, I took a very late third. And that's a pretty big difference. Now, the Overseer flying through should have tipped him off a bit, but he's probably suspecting Mutas at this point, given that it's such a heavily used build. Pretty much it's either quick third or quick muta, so quick swarm host isn't yet something that people are concerned about. They definitely should be, because it certainly hard counters this. So we have Lucy moving out here with almost entirely sentries. And this is actually really hard to deal with on Daybreak because of this third being so easy to force field. But thus far it's going really well. He actually probably, even though that was just 4 or 6 locusts, he probably should have force fielded. It really wasn't worth losing 2 sentries. Because in terms of in terms of energy, he lost more energy than 3 force fields anyways from losing those sentries. 4 force fields if they had 100 energy. So I get to cancel. So at this point, this trade was great for me. Let's take a look at losses. I took a little bit of loss, 75 minerals loss from the cancel, and then the rest of those resources I think were from the extractor tricks and then some zerglings that got popped when I was initially scouting. So thus far I'm already doing really well in terms of the efficiency. Now we see from Lucy, he's still stuck on the 8 gateways, but what he's doing here is a really cool transition. I liked this a lot when I was playing. It caught me off guard heavily, because I saw 8 gateways and I'm thinking, okay, the logical transition is going to be for him to go into Blink Stalker, or maybe Charge Lot Archon. So, I mean, he just came out of left field and goes into double Stargate Oracle. Really cool transition. It does, unfortunately, have the downside of meaning that probably 3 of these gateways, if he's spending his Chrono Boost actively on his Stargates, they're going to be idle. But to have the element of surprise versus what he's already seen to be a Swarm Host commitment, I like it. It's really strong play. Alright, so these Zealots moving down. He's just trying to sneak around here, make sure he can possibly clean up the third. Now, I don't notice this. Otherwise, we would have seen maybe me making some roaches and rallying him to my third. But even though he's sitting right under it, I was focused on my Swarm Host positioning, and I did not do anything about it. So that's pretty sloppy on my part, because I should already be down there cleaning those up with Hydras or Roaches. Actually, it looks like I'm just on Roach Warren right now, because I saw those Stargates, or I saw those gateways. I didn't feel the need for a Hydra Den. But we'll find that actually is something I do need here in a moment with those double Stargates. Still cranking out those Oracles, just double Stargate, completely spending his Chrono Boost, so this is going to be really good when he starts to move out. So I do let that hash tree finish, and in this case that's going to really hurt me, because I had all the time in the world to notice that on my minimap and react, but it's going to cost me. Which at this point I really do need that third to be finishing up, even though I have been denying him well. I need to still capitalize on that Zerg macro and be able to get one base up, so that over the long game I'm going to wear him down on mining. So finally I get those roaches out, and I maybe was a little too antsy with the Swarm Host. Here we go. Here he's moving out with these Oracles, cleaning out my Swarm Host, but I really got too heavy with the Swarm Host count. I was expecting maybe a Colossus transition, worst case scenario for me, but probably a Blinker and a Zealot Archon, so I was not expecting there to be any kind of threat from the air. Not expecting him to really be able to deal with a high Swarm Host count. So this was a great choice on his part. Getting some really good transfuses here. Wasn't quite focus firing the queens well enough, but that's kind of a difficult thing to do when you're transfusing, because every time you transfuse it resets what they're targeting. So I'm not too terribly worried about that. As long as I hit my transfusions and Oracles are going down, that's good enough. So at this point, this is where this becomes really tricky for me to know where to go with this. A lot of times I used to try and save this, but at this point I'm thinking, if I can shut down those Stargates before they can get too many Oracles out, I've got a lot better chance of this game going my way if I trade. So dropping tons of spines up top. Those were originally going to become queens, but instead I'm a lot better off just making sure I hold my main and making sure he hopefully doesn't. Bunch of bunch of locusts, a bunch of units. We'll just call them units. Bunch of these flying units. Did finish in time. I was able to cut off power to that last Stargate, so he's down to five Oracles. But still, that's enough that he can definitely do some damage. Now the nice thing is, since Oracles are bonus versus light, while they do a ton of damage still, they use up a lot of energy when they're dishing out damage. And since their bonus versus light isn't coming into play here, it means he runs out of energy before he's able to clean up enough of my Swarm Hosts that there isn't still a significant threat knocking in his door. So we're looking at a really close game here right now, but the nice thing is he's having to dump Force Field into keeping this ramp safe, and that's going to really tie him down for a bit, because that means eventually he's going to have to, and I actually don't know what the math adds up to, how many sentries it would take to be able to indefinitely force field this, but he's going to have to be dumping gas into sentries rather than what he would like to be, which is probably teching past this cybercore. But he's actually thus far doing alright on energy. He's got 3 left, so I think 3 might be that magic number. So I've got a few swarm hosts up top, and this is going to allow me to then go ahead and break out and get my natural back. Really, at this stage of the game, the big thing for me that I kind of keep in mind is whoever's going to be able to get their natural up first actually wins the game. Even if there's been a lot of mining done, on mine anyways, he was fairly all in, so not so much on his. But it's just a matter of getting that mining resumed, because we're both about to mine out on our mains. And once that occurs, then this is just going to be about who can actually produce something. Now, I'm really low on drones. Let's check out the drone count here. That's production. 10 drones, and that's just because of all those spores and spines. Now getting up spores as well, because I recognize, okay, I've probably got some oracles coming over to try and shut down my mining. I'll let one die there for free. That's not so good on my part. But at this point, I'm actually even moving into drops, because I'm thinking I may want to go ahead and just actually drop in with the queens and swarm hosts and just shut down his production once and for all. Now, I don't think this was actually the right choice. In hindsight, I think I would have been better off just going ahead and containing. Now, the drops were a good call, but I need to have about 10 overlords over here, maybe all my overlords over here, rather than just a few. Because what I can do here is pick up everything in my overlords when he heads in and uses this fancy pulsar beam. He's going to start losing energy for no damage. Maybe he'll hit some locusts, but if they're all up in the overlords, he won't be able to shoot them down. So that's something I need to improve, because actually, we're going to see here in a moment, I actually forget to do that. Really not so good on my part. But I am getting getting some mining started on my natural. I need to go ahead and pull off a gas here. These 2 on gas aren't doing me any good. I don't have enough minerals to spend them. Here we go with those oracles, and I really should be picking up probably my swarm hosts. They're probably the most valuable thing right now. Maybe my queens, because really he needs to do some damage with these oracles. But either way, I pick up nothing, and that's something I definitely need to improve. This is more just a matter of kind of wrapping my head around how oracles work. It's kind of a weird thing to see now, an area unit that can't shoot other area units. So getting used to that's going to take some time. Alright, so at this point we've got LucyPrime moving out, but already got a healthy number of swarm hosts back at home for defense, and so many spines and spores. So really he needs to do some damage here, because he's mining out. Here he goes. He's going to get ready and see if he can take out some spores, but this isn't actually where he wants to be engaging. I was expecting he was going to pull back, but I think at this point he probably already had kind of conceded the game and was just going for a last-ditch effort. If he knew just how few drones I had, he probably would have played it out and put a little more effort into those oracles, because honestly, 12 drones mining at a close base versus 24 probes mining distance, I'm still ahead, but not by much. So I think he could have really kept up, actually, especially with those oracles providing map control for a nice long while. And I did have creep at his natural, so that makes it a little more difficult for him to expand, but that's still something he can deal with since oracles come with detection. So, pretty solid game. I was actually really happy with this. The end, I wish, kind of anticlimactic. I wish he would have danced around and cleaned up my main, because that really would have, while I do have some spores and I did have some queens, I could have defended a bit, maybe sniped a couple oracles. I think he would have taken out my entire main if he wanted to, and then we could have played into a longer game. But still, I was pretty happy with this, just because I'm starting to get to the point now where the pros don't make me quite so nervous. So that was good to see. I hit Vibe yesterday too, and it was or day before yesterday. It was a pretty comfortable game for me, and I won that one pretty handedly. So I was really happy with that, just because I didn't get jittery like I did when I first hit Hucka a couple weeks ago, or a week ago. All right, so that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys.